All right, everybody, welcome back to Remotely Wasted. This is the week 4 episode of our college football edition of the show. I think it's week 4.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
We had a eventful weekend of college football. Not great for me, but I was at the OU game. We'll elaborate on that more.
This is actually a lot better of a weekend than I thought it was going to be. Looking at the matchups and then the games on for the week, and I was just like, hey, it's going to be one of those kind of bum ass weeks. But
it was a good weekend for Florida State.
It was just a good weekend, kind of like across the board.
There's a lot of good games.
Yeah, there was good games. We had some upsets. It was just a bit of everything. So I thought it was a good week.
Next week looks pretty good from what I was looking at. I think.
I haven't looked at it yet, so I think
OSU plays Baylor, which that's a really interesting game to me.
Yeah.
So we can start with the top 25, starting at the bottom half. Kansas State is 25. I'm really happy about that because it makes our loss look a little bit better. Florida State finally ranked. How do you feel about that?
I think we should have been ranked last week, but it kind of had to happen. I mean, you can't really be 4-0 and not be ranked, especially with the kind of teams we've beat. Like I said, ESPN just fucking hates us, so that's probably why they didn't want to rank us last week. But I mean, we did have a pretty convincing win this week, which it makes sense. Honestly, I think Kansas State should be a little higher. I would put them at probably about 20, realistically. I mean, I know they lost to Tulane, but like they did just beat the number 6 team in the country.
That's kind of where I'm at with it.
If that was like an unranked SEC team, they would be at like fucking 12.
I do think it's slightly bullshit that Kansas isn't in the top 25, but K-State is.
Yep, that's my biggest takeaway for the week is like the rankings. I'll just jump right into that because that is my biggest takeaway for the week is just the rankings across the board. Like Kansas being 4-0, and I seen this thing. It was like NC State's schedule of the 4 teams that they've beat, and Kansas's 4 teams, and Kansas's 4 teams are way better. Well, granted, yeah, Kansas hasn't been shit for like a lot of years, but they look really good this year, and there's a lot of other 4-0 teams that haven't done as good, like NC State. So I don't really see how they're not ranked. I'd even maybe slide Kansas State up 1, drop Pittsburgh off, put Kansas at 25 if anything, and then Cincinnati's got a loss. I don't see why they're still getting votes. Florida is 2-2. Why the fuck are they getting votes?
Like, yeah, they're pretty high up on the votes. Washington State played fucking Oregon. They played them really close, so I'm glad to see them getting a lot of votes.
And then Oregon moves up 2 spots off a very, very solid win, but it was a close win. And then let's see. We'll just keep it in the 20 to 25 range right now. But yeah, that is my takeaway for the week. It's just the rankings as a whole. Arkansas dropped 10 spots, which is kind of wild. I mean, they did play Texas, another ranked team. So
I honestly thought the Arkansas drop was a little unfair considering Texas A&M was ranked. I don't think they should have dropped that far down for losing to a top 25 team.
They almost dropped as far as you guys did. And then
ours was deserving though.
Yeah, and they played a ranked team and they dropped 10. Like that's a little much. And then what we got? 15 to 20. I would have OU over A&M.
Agreed.
I mean, the rest of that, 5 to 20 is not, or 15 to 20. It's okay. I'm cool with it.
I'm agreeing with most of it. I would maybe flop Washington and Ole Miss. Ole Miss sitting at 14, but either way, I'm not really too mad about it.
Yeah.
But from 15 to like before we get into our top 6, I think Oklahoma State's getting a little disrespected being behind Tennessee, in my opinion.
I think yes and no. I think Oklahoma State's a better team than everybody's. I mean, they're ranked 9, so I mean they're giving credit. They're in the top 10. Tennessee did just beat a ranked Florida team. I don't think Oklahoma State's played any ranked teams yet. So
I don't believe so.
I think it's a little generous that they're even sitting at 9. So like if they're going off that aspect of people being ranked up high that shouldn't be, is like NC State. Like people could argue NC State's better than Oklahoma State, and let's put them right there.
NC State. Speaking of NC State, I don't know if you saw this. It's the first time in 20 years they've been in the top 10.
I did not see
That's
that.
that's kind of nuts to me.
They played Clemson this week too.
It's gonna be a hell of a game.
I
Hopefully
hope
Clemson could go down.
I hope they win. Yeah, that is a little wild. I mean, I feel like NC State's been like good for the last, I don't know, 5 to 7 years. Like pretty solid team. Back when they had what was that defensive lineman that went like top 10 in the draft? Was it Bradley Chubb?
That sounds kind of familiar.
I think
they've had a lot of good players running through.
He plays for the Broncos. I'm pretty sure. I think he's a linebacker now or some shit, or some linebacker defensive end hybrid, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, back when they had him, they was like, hey, NC State's the contender.
NC State's like the K-State of the ACC almost. Like they're really good, but you don't really think about them much.
No, I mean, I don't know. And this year they have a NFL caliber quarterback actually leading them. So I think that's also why they're ranked very high, because Devin Leary came off a really good season last year.
Yeah, he's projected second round at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason is because they have him that they're so high. Because if they had just an average dude, I could honestly see them sitting right there where Washington's sitting. I mean, they haven't played anybody, and they almost lost their first game to East Carolina. So I don't think they should be as high as they are.
No, I think if they win against Clemson, they might be arguably a top 4 team. Maybe, probably not.
They might just switch spots. Like, I mean, yeah, Clemson will probably sit right there. I could honestly see them just switching the two of them at 5 and 10.
I could see that. I think what's interesting about this like section of the rankings is I think Penn State and Utah are like quietly like real solid contenders. Penn State has not looked bad so far. I didn't really catch them last week because
they look bad their first game. I think we talked about it. They played Purdue. Sean Clifford didn't look good at all, and they almost lost. So I think since then though they've kind of, it was the first game of the season. They've kind of I think they're catching their stride a little bit, and then we'll see once they start diving into that Big Ten schedule and start playing some actually good teams.
Yeah, I mean Utah, they lost to Florida. I don't think Utah would do well if they made the playoffs, but I think they have a shot maybe at making the playoffs just because they'll have to play Oregon, USC.
I think their offense would do well. Their defense probably not so much. It'd be a shootout.
Yeah, and some of these defenses are really fucking good this year, so they might not be able to score.
I think if they're matched up to Georgia and they don't score one drive, it might be game. Like they would have to probably score every drive.
Speaking of Georgia, we could kind of jump into our top 6. I'll let you go first.
So top 6, I still have Georgia at 1. I got Ohio State sitting at 2. I did move Bama up to 3. I dropped Michigan. I think I had Clemson at 4. I dropped Clemson down. I moved Michigan into 4, and then I have Tennessee at 5 and Clemson at 6.
Damn, our rankings are really close this week.
Yeah, Tennessee looked really good. It was a lot closer of a game than I thought it was going to be, and finally, Richardson finally did it. He got his first passing touchdown of the season.
He balled out. That's what's crazy. They lost and he balled out.
He had like 400 and some passing yards or something.
And 2 rushing touchdowns and like 60 rushing yards. The dude balled the fuck out. I was like, I almost put him on like my bounce back performance of the week, but I didn't because they lost. Yeah,
he was carrying that team on his back, and I mean, if they had, maybe some better weapons, somebody for like a good number, like a true like wide receiver 1, or maybe a running back that they could just lean on a little bit, and it's not him running the ball every game, they probably could have won that game.
So how did you feel about Georgia? They themselves struggled against Kent State. Kent State
Kent
It
State
might be better
good.
than what we thought, because
They
they
gave you
scored on
guys.
Georgia a few times, more than
I
anybody
think they
else I think this
scored.
year.
Was it 22 or 29 points?
Something like that. I think it might have been 29. Like they scored a good number,
It
farther than I've
was
seen in a while.
39 to 22. So
That's closer than you would think for Kent State versus Georgia. You'd expect that
I
game to be
mean,
66 to nothing.
yeah, they got within 17. That's
Stetson
two.
Bennett didn't play. My power just flashed.
Oh shit! I thought that was your camera. Yeah, Stetson Bennett didn't do
Hopefully,
that great. I didn't watch the game, so I don't really know what the fuck what happened. But I don't know. Maybe there's a chink in the old Georgia armor that maybe we're not really seeing yet.
I was reluctant to have Georgia at my top six or my number one. I'll kind of go over mine, then we could expand. I have Georgia at one, Ohio State at two, Alabama at three. We pretty much agree with our top three at the moment. Alabama really kind of redeemed themselves. Granted, it was against Vanderbilt, but that is an SEC team that was 3-1 going into that game. So
I think they're catching their
they're
stride too.
far from trash.
Their defense is kind of getting stuff figured out a little bit.
Yeah, I think they look. That's the best they've looked this whole season, in my opinion. Because they balled out. Like, I think that first game. I can't even remember who they were playing that first game.
Alabama, it was some fucking shitty high school team.
That's what I'm saying.
Utah State.
Yeah, Vanderbilt looks a little bit better than that. And then I have at at four, I got Clemson. It was kind of a toss-up between Clemson and Michigan, but with Clemson beating a top 25 opponent, granted it wasn't pretty, but they did beat a top 25 opponent. Michigan damn near lost to Maryland. So I had Michigan at 5. The AP poll has USC at 6. I have Kentucky at 6 and USC at 7. So I just kind of flipped their bottom half. But yeah, Michigan, Maryland, that was a crazy game. I don't know if you saw the highlights of that or anything.
No, I didn't. I heard did Tua's brother get hurt?
I don't know if he got hurt because I didn't watch the whole thing, but I know he was balling out before he got hurt. I think it was 34-27 final score on that.
And fucking old Blake Corum, that man was going nuts.
That dude, when we get into our Heisman talk, I got some things to say about him.
He's a bad man. Yeah, I mean, where did you have Tennessee at? Did you have them in your top 6 at all?
No, I have them probably at 8 or 9 is where I'd have them at the moment.
Yeah, I think I had for sure. USC needs to drop a little bit. They didn't win very.
They about lost. Now I'm really starting to think they're not necessarily the runaway favorites in the Pac-12. They are one of the teams in the running, but I don't think they're. Just no doubt USC is going to win the Pac-12. I don't think that's the case.
I think Utah still is going to take the Pac-12. They just look too good. I mean, yeah, they lost week 1, but there was a lot of factors there that I'm pretty sure we already covered in that week 1 video.
Oh yeah,
the humidity, the on the road, the playing in the swamp. That's a really tough place to play. So I don't know. I'm not really faulting them for that loss, especially with how good Florida played Tennessee. Florida's not that. They're not a good team, but I don't know. I want to say they're a bad team. I really do.
They have a good home field advantage, though.
I think they're like an average team.
I would say they're. I can't decide. They're average. That's where I have them actually. I'm sometimes they feel slightly below average. Sometimes they feel slightly above average, but probably they're just average.
They're just not consistent. There's no consistency on that team.
Yeah, they're very inconsistent, but they do have a great crowd. Almost like when Florida State was struggling the past few years. I saw a stat. It was the first time you guys have been ranked in 4 years. But even during shitty seasons, Florida State has a crazy crowd. I think Florida is kind of in that same boat where it's hard to play there.
It's our first sellout since 2015.
Really? You guys haven't had a sellout?
Not since then. I mean, granted,
the crowd always looks crazy, but I don't know what's a sellout and what's not. But OU's not sold out since 1999. We've sold out every game.
Our stadium has almost an 80,000 capacity, so I mean that's kind of hard to fill.
Even with 3/4. It looks like a shit ton of people.
Yeah, because everybody's just gonna slide down, and then like on the camera, as long as they're not panned
They're not
out.
showing the nosebleeds and shit.
Yeah, you're not seeing everybody that slid down, and there's 10 rows at the top that aren't filled.
We could jump into the biggest takeaway. You talked about the rankings. Mine was how all the top teams got exposed pretty much in one way or another. We got OU losing to K-State, Georgia not looking great against Kent State, USC only winning by 3 points against Oregon State. Kentucky didn't look the greatest against Northern Illinois. Michigan struggled. Arkansas lost. Oregon struggled a bit against Washington State. Ole Miss struggled a bit against Tulsa. Then Baylor struggled against Iowa State. We got Texas losing to Tech. And then Miami getting blown out by Middle Tennessee State.
That Texas game, I think I did call that upset last week. If I can remember, I'm pretty sure I called that.
I think you either said they were going to win or it was going to be a close game.
I was like, I knew it.
I'm actually kind of pissed about it because it just makes our schedule look worse.
Yeah, and then also Clemson, that they should have lost. They should have lost. Sam Hartman, like, what the fuck are you doing, my man? On that
if they would have won, he would be my number one on my Heisman list this week. Like, no doubt.
Why are you throwing into double coverage when you only need 6 yards? Like, that man was covered. It wasn't no soft safety coverage, like double coverage. Like, the safety in the corner were all over that dude, and he was just like, fuck it.
I think he kind of panicked and was like, I'm just gonna do something. Like, he didn't know what he was gonna do.
I guess.
I think probably whoever he was gonna throw to was probably covered, and then he just panicked.
I was upset. And I was like, they had it. And all they needed, they could not get a fucking stop on defense to save their lives.
They did expose Clemson's defense. That's one thing I forgot to mention and all that. Clemson's defense is looking like a Big 12 defense right now.
See, I'm not sure if if that's the case, or maybe Sam Hartman is just that good. The dude threw for like 6 touchdowns. And when was the last time somebody threw for 6 touchdowns on Clemson?
0 interceptions too.
I don't know if it's ever happened.
Then you got a DJ Ugandule. I think I pronounced that right. He balled out too. He had 5 touchdowns.
I think he's kind of catching his stride.
He's probably on ESPN. They probably got him on their Heisman list. I don't really look at their list. But
let's see if I can find it actually.
I bet you they got him on there.
I don't know where the fucking Heisman. I don't know if they come out with Heisman rankings for a minute.
They might not. We're kind of like early discussing it.
It's super early.
Like, honestly, like the Heisman might not even be on our radar right now. Because the Heisman doesn't really, like, you don't really get the picture of who's going to be like a nominee until probably like mid to late October. Right now, we're kind of guessing, but no front runner has really, really emerged, in my opinion. Like, you got your players that are playing really good.
Yeah, pretty much the R5 that we kind of got, they're all kind of just, hand in hand, like right there. Give or take a couple 100 yards and like a few touchdowns.
Nobody's had a Heisman moment yet. Hartman could have had a Heisman moment.
He could have
on Saturday.
Because if he could have taken down Clemson, I mean, they could have just went undefeated.
Yeah. Player of the week, who you got? Oh, you got it
up? No. One second. Yeah, okay. No, I was saying they could have went undefeated. For some reason, I thought they had a second loss, but I was tripping. Player of the week, I got a tie. I got Sam Hartman and Blake Corum. Sam Hartman was killing it. Like, that was probably one of the better, QB games I've seen in a hot while. Like, he had 9 incompletions, 337 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. He did get sacked 3 times. So, I mean, he had a 234.9 rating, 91.4 QBR. Like, it's pretty badass. And it was against Clemson's defense, who is supposed to be one of the top defenses in the country. And did he expose them, or is he just that good? He's probably going in the first round of the draft. Incredible game. probably the game of his life, and he fucking blew it. But I think
Well,
he's still,
hopefully he'll get. Well, actually, you probably don't want him to redeem himself that much. Him being in the
no,
ACC,
because we play him next week. Fuck that guy.
that's gonna be a hell of a game. I
And
have
then
a Blake Corum as well
yeah,
as mine.
that man had a really good game. I mean, it was Maryland, but 243 yards, 30 carries, like two TDs, 47-yard long.
Man carried the team on his back.
Yeah, I was considering putting Hendon Hooker in here as well, like in place of maybe Blake Corum.
I
But
didn't. I was considering putting Hartman actually on, but I was like, I'm gonna not because of the loss. But I was like, Blake Corum, he balled out, so I got
I was
that.
considering, Adrian Martinez.
Fuck that guy.
That man was playing like
Fuck
he
that
was possessed.
Cornhusker.
He was playing like he was possessed. That's the best game he's ever played in college. I'm pretty sure. I don't think he's ever done anything like that in Nebraska.
Nah, I think that's why he had to leave Nebraska because Casey Thompson came and stole his job.
So looking back at that, do you think with their record of I think it was 20 some games of a one score loss. Now looking back on that, do you think it was Scott Frost keeping them that close or AJ Martinez keeping them that close?
I think it was a combination of both. I think Scott Frost is a great coach. I don't know what he was doing wrong. I don't know if he wasn't pointing out enough mistakes or if it was all mental, just he couldn't get his guys mentally ready.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably Scott Frost was the reason they got a little bit closer, because you would think in the Big Ten, defenses could figure out kind of a quarterback that can move a lot. But yeah, I would probably say Scott Frost. Hope he lands on his feet. But we'll see.
I seen this stat about Scott Frost when he was still I think it was the week before he got fired in Nebraska, and he was making the linemen run till they threw over some shit. And everybody was and then they lost, and they was oh, but that really worked out for you, didn't it?
Some remember the Titans level shit right there.
Yeah. He probably watched that movie and he was I'm gonna do
He's
that.
Coach Boone, I'm inspired.
What dude's an animal.
Where was he before? UCF? Was that where he was? Yeah, and they were doing crazy good when he was there.
They came out of nowhere.
He'll probably be a fucking analyst for Alabama by the end of the year. They always get the fired head coaches is just some random position on their fucking team.
Yeah, he's gonna be the locker room janitor, and then he's gonna come back when a top 10 team fires their coach, and he just slides in there as offensive coordinator, and then their head coach gets fired again, and he's oh, I'm back.
That's where you go to restore your career. You go to Alabama. Look at Lane Kiffin. He was the laughing stock. He goes to Alabama, spends 1 year at Florida Atlantic. Now he's the coach of Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is the top 25 team. Go to Alabama, Scott Frost. That's what I would do.
You guys need a water boy? I'll fold some towels.
I'll do anything you guys want.
Please.
I'll suck some dick to get that position.
Yeah, right? A little something on the side. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where else he would go. I mean, there's a lot of teams that are opening up and about to open up.
Georgia Tech opened up this week. That was interesting. I didn't really know much about Georgia Tech, so that wasn't even on my radar.
I wouldn't go to Georgia Tech.
He might not have much of a choice. That might be the best he could get.
That's just such a hard team to coach. I mean, you got to recruit against Georgia, your in-state, and Auburn. Auburn's in Alabama.
Yeah, you got all the ACC you're going up against.
Yeah, ACC. It's not an awful conference, and I'm pretty sure they finally got rid of the triple option. If I'm not mistaken, their last coach that they brought in finally got rid of it. And I don't know. I just wouldn't want to go there.
Yeah. Do you think he should have been fired? You watching ACC football, was that a deserving firing?
For Georgia Tech?
For Georgia
Probably.
Tech, yeah.
They've been fucking ass for a bit. I think they just might have had their expectations too high. Maybe they thought they were going to be better than they were. Georgia Tech needs a lot of work. They need to kind of almost a brand rebuild, kind of what we're doing, restore some, culture, find an identity. I don't think they, after getting rid of the triple option, that was kind of their thing. Other than the, the academy teams like Air Force and Navy and shit. So I think they just need to find who they want to be, figure something out, and bring in a coach that give him some time. Don't be like, hey, you got 2 years. And
I think
if
you
we
should
don't,
give every coach like at least 4 years just to get all the other players that were recruited by a different coach out of there.
yeah,
Bring in your own personnel and then see what happens.
I would say with like an amendment, like you go fucking 0 and like 12,
Yeah.
like you're out.
If you're just straight ass, then yeah, there's no excuse for it.
I think Boise State fired their coach. If I was fucking Scott Frost, I'd be trying to go over there.
That's a hell of a school. They're gonna be looked at. Pac-12 is probably me trying to get them. Big 12 is gonna be trying to get them. The ACC doesn't seem like they're really chasing anybody at the moment.
Big Ten might.
Big 10, no bets are off for them. They're in a fucking arms race with fucking SEC right now at the moment.
They're all the Big Ten fans are clowning UCLA. Or not the Big Ten fans. Like I think it's SEC fans are clowning the Big Ten because they want UCLA, and then they're like, oh, that LA market, and then their stadium has like 2,000 people in it or some shit.
UCLA is good this year though.
Yeah, they're 4-0. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they blew out Colorado. They don't have the fan base that USC has. It's unfortunate.
They got 3 votes to be ranked. How do you feel about that?
Um,
They got James Madison with a vote over them.
That's kind of fucked up. But I believe they play somebody noteworthy next week where they could kind of put themselves on the map a bit.
Who do they play next week? Is it Utah?
Possibly.
Oh, no, Utah's got Oregon State and then UCLA.
I almost feel like it's like Arizona State or some shit. Let me look.
Is it USC? They play the last game.
They play like the last game of the year. It is Washington. That if they win that game, they're top 25, no doubt.
I mean, Washington's in at 15, so if they beat Washington, I don't see why they wouldn't jump a lot of these 3-1 teams sit down here at like 16 to the bottom. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, they wouldn't jump us because we play Wake Forest this week. If
you win, you win that game, you guys are gonna move up top 15, probably. I mean, you never know because we thought after week 1 you guys would be top 25 and you weren't. But I would say probably after beating a ranked team you'd be top 15, but you never know. Yeah,
like I said, they're just gonna fucking hate on us. We might move up 1 spot. We're probably gonna drop 2 spots just for the sake of the hate.
But yeah, I think UCLA, I don't think they're gonna win against Washington. I don't think they have a chance, like realistically. But if they do, like I'm rooting for them. Like right now, I mean, like I think OU still has a path to the playoff. But they
100%.
no longer control their own destiny. They're dependent on other teams losing, other teams winning, and then they got to win out, essentially. So,
yeah.
But I still got UCLA and FSU, who I'm kind of like, they're still undefeated. They still got, like, they control their own destiny. If they went out, they're in.
Yeah, there's no way if FSU or UCLA is not undefeated, they don't get in. Because Ohio State or Michigan's not going to be undefeated. Alabama, Georgia is not going to be undefeated. If we win out, Clemson won't be there. If USC is not going to be there if UCLA wins out. So
I find it very unlikely that Oklahoma State will be undefeated playing Baylor and OU. Still, I think they still got Kansas. Yeah, they do got Kansas, and then they got I don't think they play K-State either. So they still got all of the hard teams to face off against, and we don't know what they're capable of yet.
Pretty much the rest of their schedule is fucking tough. Like, I would not want to be an OSU fan right now because they got at Baylor next week, which pretty much ruined their playoff hopes last year. So this is a redemption. That's turning into a pretty good rivalry, Baylor OSU.
OSU, like they have the opportunity to be a top team once OU and Texas leave.
And then they got Texas Tech, at TCU, Texas, at K-State, at Kansas, Iowa State, at Oklahoma, West Virginia. Like that's a fucking tough schedule.
They might be fucked. But they might just come out of it unscathed, and they're like the number 1 team in the country. Maybe.
Yeah, if they win out all those games, I don't see why you wouldn't have them
Oh,
maybe
if
over.
they're undefeated, they should be like 2 or 3, depending on what Alabama and Georgia are doing.
I don't know. I'm excited for it. I like OSU. They're cool. They're a cool team. I love their uniforms. Mike Gundy's a fucking boss.
See, I have no problem with OSU, like the team. It's just their fans. Like their like highlight of the year is just like when OU loses. Like they don't
Yep.
have like wins to celebrate. They just have OU losses to celebrate. And Bedlam
Yeah.
is the equivalent of the Super Bowl to them. What do you think about like both of the athletic directors have confirmed Bedlam is done at least for the next 15 years? How do you feel about that?
I think it's a mistake on probably both ends because I mean, if OU probably doesn't need it as much as OSU is going to need it, but that's the only rivalry they're going to have other than Texas.
It's pretty fucking sad. Really, because it's like I said, it's like I would say it's about as big of a deal as Super Bowl in Oklahoma. Like
Oh yeah,
it might
100%.
even be a bigger deal
I think
in
it is.
Oklahoma. Like it is a huge deal. If you're not from Oklahoma, it
Unless
is
like the
nuts.
Cowboys make the fucking Super Bowl, like that's it.
Like that shit is
Uh,
nuts. It's a heated rivalry. You wouldn't like it's probably a more heated rivalry than Texas because
I think so.
you don't see Texas fans on your day to day life in Oklahoma, but you see OSU fans every goddamn day.
They're your fucking neighbors.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's unfortunate. Like I like you said, I don't think OU needs the game because they're gonna be playing Alabama. They still got Texas, like
Yeah,
Georgia, Florida, all these really big teams. A&M, OSU really will just have Baylor. Maybe they
like
develop some new rivalries with like Cincinnati or one of those
I
other
mean,
teams that come in.
if they stay in the Big 12, like that, they're definitely losing that trade essentially. If they move to the Big Ten, then they don't really need it either at that point.
Do you think they're
I
gonna move to the
it,
Big Ten? Have you heard anything about that?
no, I mean I don't see why they wouldn't want them. They're one of the top Big 12 teams, other than OU and Baylor on occasion. OSU's consistently like a good team. They consistently compete for the Big 12. They have way more consistency than Texas of late, Baylor, K State. It's just OU and Oklahoma State in like the last couple of years.
And people are like in this whole conference realignment. I think something people are really overlooking is the other sports besides football. OSU is a pretty historically they're a pretty good basketball school.
They're
And
one of the
people
best
kind of gloss.
wrestling
Oh,
teams in the
absolutely.
country.
They're the best. They're the Alabama of wrestling. The the Wrestling Hall of Fame is in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Like they're that fucking good. And then people gloss over like Kansas. Like Kansas is like one of the top 3 programs in basketball.
Yep.
Like other conferences are gonna want that when it comes to basketball.
I'd say it's
So,
like Kansas, Duke, and North Carolina in like no particular order.
yeah,
You could
I would put it that way.
you could maybe argue Kentucky.
Yeah, and Louisville's kind of up there too. There's a handful, but I would say those 3, Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, are the top 3. Going into most disappointing performance by a player, I'll start this one off. My boy, Rocket Raheem Sanders. I had him on my Heisman list. He let me down 68 rushing yards.
I mean,
It
that's not
contained
a
him.
bad outing, but coming from the week before,
From the 100 plus yards he was doing to this,
yeah.
it was pretty disappointing. I didn't get to watch the game because I was at the U game, but you told me like Arkansas lost, and I was like, fuck, I kind of liked Arkansas. Then I saw his stats, and I was like, fuck, I'm even more disappointed. Who do you got
Yeah,
as your most disappointed player?
yeah, Arkansas missed that field goal with like I think it was a minute 45 left. I can't remember if it was tied or win. I think it was the win.
Yeah,
I think they were down by 2. Um, I pulled up an article. I'm trying to figure out. So my most disappointing player of the week is Tyler Van Dyke from Miami. This man got
mm,
benched in the middle of the game, and
yeah.
he's the starter. He has a QBR of 22. He got sacked twice, 2 interceptions. He only threw 1 TD, 138 yards against Middle Tennessee, and they lost. So that's not looking good. And Miami is not looking good at all at all. When the fuck did they bench him? I'm wanting to say it's probably like halftime or the third quarter. What's this article say? Yeah, he got benched in the third quarter.
Yeah, Miami.
Who the
Jesus
fuck loses
Christ.
to Middle Tennessee? And I think that's their first like top 25 win, like in the history of their school.
That's one of those losses where we're just talking about like first year head coaches needing some time. That's one of those losses where you're like, maybe
That's
we need to do that little pull the trigger a little bit sooner.
that's one of those losses on your or that's one of those teams on your schedule that's like you're like, all right, automatic win. Like they paid them $1.5 million, just like fucking Appalachian State got from A&M, and then what other another team just got fucking the same treatment.
Marshall beating
Yeah,
Notre
Notre Dame,
Dame.
1.5 million. Like
What's
they gotta
worse
stop
about this
paying
is
these. We
what's
gotta
worse
stop
is
paying.
A&M and Notre Dame at least lost close games. Fucking Miami got blown the fuck. That's the worst part about it. It's one thing to lose a close game. Like, all right,
They
it
got beat by
happens to every school
14.
eventually. They got fucking whooped. I
Yeah,
mean, like they were getting whooped early on. I mean,
it was at home too.
that's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, they never have any fans there anyway, so
What was the
it's
final score of that?
45-31.
And it was looking worse, I think, before. Like, I'm pretty sure they were winning by
Yeah,
like at least 21 at one point.
let me see if I can pull up the like the game cast. So first quarter, Middle Tennessee was up 17-3, then 24-3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They were up by a lot.
I think at the height it was 38-17, and then they let Miami score a touchdown, and then they scored again.
See, I
So
feel like that's some garbage time points for Miami. Like honestly, it was probably worse than it actually looked on
yeah, they were. I
paper.
mean, they were probably just trying to run the ball, and then they were just selling out and stopping them, and then whatnot. But I think they scored like a 98-yard touchdown on Miami, like from their own end zone. I don't know if it was a pass or a rush, but it was pretty sick. And I think Middle Tennessee is like a new team, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
They've been around for a while, I think, just because
are they a
I
new
still play NCAA and they're on
are they a
there.
new like FBS team?
Um, I think they might have moved maybe 15 years ago into the
Uh,
FBS. They're on. I have NCAA 13. I don't have 14 because that's just expensive as fuck. But
four
I've
hundred
been playing
dollars.
it. I've been playing it lately. And Middle Tennessee State is on there. New one's coming out. I'm super excited about that next year. Um, Going into
Yeah,
that, go
that's
ahead.
just one of those losses that are just not forgivable.
It's how do you feel about that? Really, really being the ACC? Are you disappointed? Like it makes your schedule look worse, or do you play
Yeah,
Miami like on your schedule?
yeah, we play Miami.
Damn.
I was kind of hoping, like our rivals would be at least ranked by the time we get to them, because now Miami and Florida are not ranked. Florida might be able to climb back in there, so it doesn't really help us out at all. We only have 3 ranked teams on our schedule. Syracuse will probably get ranked. They're 4-0 right now as well. But I don't know. I don't hate it because I fucking hate Miami, and it's a great weekend overall for me. Miami lost, Clemson almost lost, Florida lost. We finally won a game that we blew a team out like we should be doing, and I won my fantasy game. We'll see if the Giants win tonight. It's just a good weekend for me.
Yeah.
I'm
When it's with your rivals, like I'm mad that Texas' schedule like kind of fucked up our schedule, but at the same time I'm like I'm kind of glad they lost too. Like you're not mad about
yeah.
it. You're like they fucking lost. Fuck them. I meant to do this in the top 6 part of the thing. I wanted to kind of change it up. Like so on the Heisman top 5, I was thinking like you give your 5, I give my 5, and we kind of just work our way up. I think it would add
Okay.
a little bit more suspense to it.
Yeah, so Heisman top 5. CJ Stroud still sitting at number 1. They looked pretty dominant. He had a really good game. I moved Bryce Young up to number 2. I think I had him at 4 last week. Stetson Bennett dropped down to 3. I got Hendon Hooker at 4, and then I got Caleb Williams at 5.
All right,
You
we're
could probably
pretty close.
you could probably switch Caleb Williams with like maybe Dylan Gabriel, or I know I've seen a lot of rankings have like Will Anderson from Alabama on there. Uh, I mean, he's playing really good, but he's not having like a Heisman season. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
who did you have at number 2 again?
Bryce Young.
Okay, So I got CJ Stroud at number 1. So we're the same on there. This might be a huge like hot take jump.
Again,
I got
you always
Blake,
have a hot take in the Heisman rankings.
I got like one every week. I don't go overboard with it, but I got at least one. I got Blake Corum at number 2. The reason is he rushed for 243 yards, I think we said, this past weekend. The weekend before, he rushed for 5 fucking touchdowns. So that's pretty fucking crazy for a running back. If Michigan keeps playing this good and they don't lose and he keeps playing at this level, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be sitting there in New York at the end of the season. Then at number 3, I got Bryce Young. He's been kind of sitting at the bottom of my list. He bought out. He's moving up. He's kind of trending upwards. I can see him winning it again. 4, I got Caleb Williams. And then 5, I got Stetson Bennett. Because Stetson Bennett kind of struggled a little bit. So did Caleb, but at least Caleb got a touchdown. Stetson, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, I believe.
I don't know about the Blake Corum pick. I mean, I don't even think he's like the best running back in the country right now. Like, I mean, I'm just kind of looking at the rushing stats like for the NCAA. I mean, let's see, he's not even top 10 in yards. So the rushing leader with yards is at 604 with 3 TDs. You got fucking Minnesota's running back with 567 and 8 touchdowns. So that's pretty good. Oh wait, there he is. No, he's sitting at 7. I just overlooked him.
I mean, like, he might not have the best stats, but I'm like, couple that with the fact that he's on a top team.
I mean, he's got more touchdowns than everybody else. So I mean, if you want to waiver or weigh touchdowns more so than like overall yards, that's kind of a weird. Like I think it's kind of just dependent on like the person. Like, all touchdowns are more valuable, but if I got 1 more touchdown than you and like you got 100 more yards than me, so like how are you gonna weigh that one?
It depends on how big the gap is. Really thinking about it, I would probably, because I made this list like Saturday night at like 3 a.m. I would probably swap Bryce Young and Blake Corum, but I still definitely have Blake Corum in my top 5 for sure.
I think he's definitely like probably one of the top 3 running backs in the country.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty close for the most part. CJ Stroud, right now, he's like we were talking about, nobody's really had a Heisman moment, but CJ Stroud has been the most consistent. And he has this NFL level receiving core to work with. So his stats are going to be through the roof. It's just, can they win enough? And can he have like some type of Heisman moment? We'll see. I think he's probably the favorite, I would say. I know a lot of places have Bryce Young at number 1. I just think CJ Stroud's been a little bit more consistent.
I think Ohio State would take it Alabama too if they played right now.
I would say I
think they'd take them.
The problem with Ohio State is defensively, they're not that great. I mean, like, but their offense is just so good, it doesn't even matter.
Can you stop them?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like Ohio State's defense, I don't know, it's so tough because like Alabama's defense overall has looked pretty good this year. But Ohio State's offense, like, they scored like 77 like the previous week.
Yeah. I can't wait for like the next. I just can't wait for the next like, handful of weeks from now when these teams start playing really good teams. And Ohio State's schedule is not that great. I mean, they had 5 Notre Dame at the beginning of the season. Notre Dame's dog shit, so they weren't even deserving of that. Michigan State's no longer ranked. Penn State and Michigan, like, that's it.
So, it's probably enough if they win. I mean, it definitely is enough just where they're at right now. If they win out, they're just undefeated. Like, they're no doubt probably going to be in there.
I don't know. I don't like it.
I mean, like, but I mean, you know how like the committee is and shit. Like,
they fucking love Ohio State.
They love Ohio State. They love Alabama. They love pretty much the whole SEC. They hate non-Power 5 teams. Cincinnati had to like go all the way undefeated, like look pretty fucking good the whole fucking season. They had like one game where they
Close
didn't
game.
completely dominate, and they almost got taken out of it for that one
Yeah,
fucking game. Like
they
you
was
have to
blowing
go
everybody out.
crazy if you're not in the SEC or Big Ten, like
Yeah,
or you're a blue blood in like a ACC or Big 12. Like in OU, Texas, if they're undefeated, yeah, they're gonna throw them in. Florida State,
probably.
Miami, Clemson, they're gonna throw them in. Pac-12, pretty much just USC or Oregon, like
It's
pretty much.
I don't know why they fucking love Oregon so much. Like they've done nothing in like the history of
Have
their
they
school.
even won
They
a championship? I don't think
they've
they have.
zero championships. That's like the joke. Like their logo is a zero, and it's like the amount of championships that they have.
I never
Have you
thought
never
about that.
have, have you never heard that one?
No.
It's fucking great.
Oh my
Just
god.
I would
They've
want to
only
be an
been to
Oregon.
one championship, I think, and that was against Auburn.
Yeah, and they got
Cam
beat
Newton
down
whooped them.
by
Well, yeah, they didn't
Cam
get
Newton.
whooped, but they got beat on like a last second field goal.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, Cam Newton was just a different man back then.
All right. So before we go into our next topic, I want to take a break, but I want to do a new thing where one of us goes at a time. So
Well,
we
you go
don't just
ahead.
have a bunch of dead space.
I got my
Okay.
I got my drink. I'm good to go, baby.
All right. Entertain the crowd.
All right. Fucking Blake Corum in the Heisman rankings. It's been smoking crack. Just don't troll him on this OU loss. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. You hate when your team loses, especially like sitting at rank 6 too. Like that's just heartbreaking. And then dropping all the way to 18. It's a big hole to climb back out of to compete for a championship again. So it feels bad. Kansas State always be giving OU the business. That's a trap team for OU for sure. Florida State won though. We're looking good, baby. We're looking good. Feeling good about the season. I think we will Wake Forest next week. In my perfect mind. Let's see. Nothing else really is kind of jumping out to me, like scheduling wise. I don't know. I'm just kind of skimming back over the rankings and seeing if anything kind of comes out. I mean, I was talking about how that the OU loss is just as a fan of like a favorite team like that, a loss like that is just heartbreaking to like sitting at 6, just dropping you out, and now you gotta. It's a big fucking hole to climb out of to compete back for the championship.
Especially when your
It's
hopes are already super high.
yo,
Like, and then like I've never like I went to the OU spring game. That was my first ever like real game going to OU, and we fucking lose. Which like it was an anniversary gift from my girlfriend. She didn't realize that K-State always fucking beats us. I think if she knew that, she would have maybe picked like UTEP or like Kent State
I'd
or
rather been at that game. Like that was an incredible game. It was that was a great game.
no, I mean like it was a very exciting game. I was entertained the whole time. I didn't leave. Like a bunch of people left early as fuck. I didn't leave until Martinez ran. Like it was like 3rd and 16. He ran all the way to like pretty much damn near the end zone. And I was
Yeah,
like, yeah, this is over. So
I
that's
didn't
when
even
we left.
I didn't even turn the game off because like honestly they should have just let him run that in to keep more time on the clock because they was gonna score you anyways. Just let him run the. I guess we can just slide into team talk if you want. We could just
Yeah, we could just kind of jump around to favorite team talk.
since we're already talking about OU, but yeah, they should have just let him, slide that in. He was already fucking almost there. Save a little bit of time, and then they went down and scored. They didn't take him, terribly too long. That was a really good drive, and yeah, like just go for the onside kick. I honestly thought they had a really good chance to get it. It was a shitty fucking like attempt. The kicker did pretty good. It didn't even seem like they were trying to get it. Like they were just defeated. It seemed like.
It definitely seemed like that. The big thing about the game was there's so many fucking penalties on OU where like there's like a few times where it'd be like 4th and 5 and we're about to go for it and then false start.
False start.
And then
Yeah.
it's like, well, we gotta punt it now. Just players are out of position. Number 5, Bowman on defense, defensive back, he struggled quite a bit. Dylan Gabriel, like on the stat sheet, it looks like he had a great game. Sitting there watching it, he's a smart player. He hasn't thrown an interception yet, but he is scared to let go of his arm.
He's got a big arm though.
But he's scared to take a shot, and that's kind of what we needed in a game like that. To take a risk, because it's like, okay, if we play it safe, we're gonna lose.
Yeah.
If you get aggressive, you could lose, but there's also a chance you could.
Yeah, I mean, you could even argue it. One-on-one, your receivers might be better than their secondary.
Marvin Mims played great. He's our top receiver. He played fantastic. The crowd was going crazy. Like when anytime we scored, it was nuts. And I guess like you started this new thing where they like flash the lights.
Flash the lights. That shit was dope.
I didn't even know it was a new thing, but I was like, oh shit.
I seen that on TV and I was like, huh. I was like, I don't remember ever seeing that, but I don't watch too many OU games, but I was just like, weird, but it's cool.
Like I don't think I've seen it at like really any, maybe like one or two other schools. I haven't seen it in a lot of places. Then like before the fourth quarter, like they have everybody download an app, and then they started playing Phil Collins in the air tonight, and like you would like push your phone and like the light, like it'd have like a light show going from everybody's phone. It was pretty cool. It was kind of annoying when you're losing though. All this fucking like during the commercials, like dance cam and all this shit. I'm like, fuck this, man. I just want to sit in silence right now.
I don't know. They gotta do something to keep the crowd engaged. They can't just let you all sit there like, fuck, we're losing. Like, we're just gonna sit here and cry.
Some of the crowd was really, the dude behind me, his I guess it was like a birthday present for him. And that dude was so happy before the game started. He's like, this is the best birthday present ever. Like, and he was just sounded so happy. And then at the end of the game, like him and his wife are like, we should have never fucking came here.
They're gonna get a divorce. Anyway. Yeah, they're gonna get a divorce.
Like people were getting like so upset. I was pretty calm because I was like, I watched a lot of football. Like anything could happen at any moment. Yeah. But once he took off from 3rd and 16 down to like the 4-yard line, I was like, yeah, this.
I can't believe y'all let that happen. Like it's 3rd and 16. Like holy fuck, how do you let that man just gouge you like that? That's
in a Venables coach defense. This is what blows my mind because like this is the worst a Venables defenses looked since probably before he even went to Clemson.
Oh, I don't even know. I don't remember seeing Clemson really give up points like that outside the playoffs when they're playing like Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State type teams. You know what I mean? Like
I don't think he's ever like maybe like his later years of OU when they brought in Mike Stoops like to do that, which was bullshit. They should have never done that. But
yeah, I can't believe you guys let that many points up. Like looking at the previous 2 weeks, like you guys, like I know we talked about it. Like yeah, OU's defense looks they look legit. This is kind of what we expected with Brett Venables coming in. The players are playing like they should be, and a Venables type defense outside the Kent State game. I can't believe it. I'm still like. At home too.
Everything I thought I knew about the team is like thrown out the window because it reminded. Like I felt like I was watching an Alex Grinch fucking defense again. Damn near like we were just getting beat on like these 3rd down plays, these little short passes, short runs, just kind of getting beat like in little small increments. Like they were just whooping on us. It was pretty terrible. But I don't know if you saw like Brent Venables was like. Anytime a player fucked up, he had like a notebook and he was like writing the shit down. So I feel like the next game we're gonna come out like they probably got.
I feel bad. I feel bad for the motherfuckers in practice because he probably took a big fat dump on them, and they're probably not too happy as they should be. Like that man knows what the fuck he's doing, and if they're not bought into like the shit he's selling, like they're fucking wrong. Like, yeah, Lincoln Riley left y'all high and dry, but get the fuck over it. You might have a better coach.
I think we do have a better coach, and we have some people that maybe probably wanted to go to USC, but USC probably brought in other people.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley's
they're kind of stuck here, and they don't want to play for us anymore. Which I mean, it is what it is. But last thing I'll say on OU, like I said earlier. We still have a path to the playoffs. It's just more dependent on other teams. If we win out, we just got to win every game. If we continue to win, and other teams above us lose, and other teams that we are about to play win and do good, and then we beat them, we have a
Yeah.
good shot. In 2017, we lost to Iowa State, who at the time wasn't a very respectable school. We still made the playoffs that year.
Yep.
I think Brant Venables is the type of coach. This is his first year as a head coach, but he's been an assistant coach for like 30 years or something crazy like that. He's
Defensive
experienced enough to
coordinator.
get the team to bounce back, to make the adjustments needed.
Yeah.
But going from there, we could talk about Florida State, who dominated Boston College.
I'll talk about OU a little bit. I just got a couple things to say.
Mhm.
I mean, like looking at you guys' schedule, like you guys need Kansas to get ranked. You play them in 3 weeks, so if they are undefeated by then, they'll be top 15. So that's a bonus. You guys need these teams on your schedule to stay undefeated by the time y'all roll into town. Like you guys play Oklahoma State the second game before the end of the season. So if they're undefeated by that point, like they might be top 5. That'll fucking that'll help you guys out. You guys got Baylor, who's sitting at 16 now. I don't know if they would be undefeated by then because I think they play.
They already lost to BYU.
Yeah, but if they play fucking,
they beat Oklahoma State this weekend, they would jump far up, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I don't think you guys really want Baylor to beat OSU. Yeah. OSU's got a higher. That's what I was looking for. Is does Baylor play OSU before you guys play OSU, which they do, which is kind of unfortunate because if OSU beats them, it's going to knock Baylor out of the top 25. So I mean, looking at you guys' schedule, you're only ideally going to have 2 ranked teams left by the time you guys get to them, if all things go according to plan. An absolute disaster would be, both those teams dropping a game, falling, and then you guys get to them and it's like, fuck, this is not helping us.
The only other thing that could help us in that situation is if we're just shutting teams out, beating them by 30, 40 points. Then there's an argument. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. It's a rebuilding year for OU. A lot of OU fans don't want to accept that.
Yeah, I think so.
But we are bringing in a new coach, a whole new staff. We had like 42 transfer players coming in. A lot of them are playing. They don't know the system. It's a rebuilding year. It's not
a whole new defensive scheme. Like,
yeah, you shouldn't expect us to win a championship this year. It'd be great if we did, but don't expect that high. Like, expectations need to be lowered a little bit.
Maybe if like you guys didn't lose anybody but the head coach from last year, maybe. Like you guys still had Caleb Williams, and I don't even know who else did you guys lose those? Any other big players?
Mario Williams is a pretty good receiver for USC now. He left. We lost Hazelwood, who is a receiver for Arkansas. He was pretty much our number 2 guy after Mims.
He was like a top 10 recruit, I think. He was like one of the was he the number 1 receiver coming out of high school or some shit?
I think he might have been, and he was a great player. And we lost Austin Stogner, our tight end. He went with Spencer to South Carolina. So our offense is damn near completely different. Besides our running backs, we still got Eric Gray, Marcus Major. Marcus Major is a great running back. I've been covering him since high school when I was doing radio shit.
You guys will lose Gabriel after this year. He's a senior, isn't he?
Junior, redshirt junior. Oh. He got an extra year because of COVID. Then another redshirt, medical redshirt year.
Although there's no reason why he does not come back unless you guys get a transfer quarterback that's better.
Yeah, I mean he's not he's not an NFL prospect at the moment.
No, absolutely not. If he does, it would be like a 6th, 7th round, maybe.
Not worth leaving and trying to build up your stock more.
No shot. Absolutely no shot.
But yeah, how are you feeling about those Seminoles after that?
Man, that was a fucking great game. We looked good. I was, from Jump Street, we ran the opening kickoff back. We haven't ran a kickoff back since the championship game when we played Auburn. Like that was in 2013. Or no, it was beginning of 2014. It was the 2013 season.
Yeah, that was a long ass time. Damn near 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's a long fucking time for no kickoff returns. And it was our running back, Trey Vincent. That dude is a fucking tank. And I think he broke 4 tackles on the return. The dude's a unit. And just from there, I'm surprised Jordan Travis was even starting. I didn't think he was going to be starting. He looked he didn't look great. He looked pretty good. You could tell his. I guess he ended up having like a kind of a knee issue. It wasn't an ankle issue because he had a knee brace on, and his ankle was taped up. So it was kind of like both, but like I think more so the knee. I don't really know why we let him play as long as we did. He played all the way up until the third quarter. We was up pretty big. I was like after halftime, I was like, "Yo, take this man the fuck out," because he was getting hit a
I mean,
little bit.
it's Boston College. We got games coming up. The next 3 games.
Exactly. Like our next 3 games are it's a fucking gauntlet. Get that man out of here. So but he looked okay. I mean, he was running a little bit. We didn't have any like design QB runs, which was cool. And there's no reason for it. I think he scrambled once. And he looked good. I think he scrambled for like 16 yards and was out there shaking and baking. So he didn't look like he was gonna be just a pocket passer, and if he gets hit, like he's fucking done type thing. Which is very nice. Offense looked pretty good. Our running game was solid, very solid. And then defense actually played considerably well. We have a lot of gaps and injuries in the defense. I mean, we got Jared Verse and Fabian Lovett, our star defensive tackle, and out of the woodwork, fucking Jared Verse. The dude's an absolute monster. So if we can get those two back relatively soon, that'll seal up some holes. But other than that, our kicking kicking's a little questionable. Our kicker is kind of buns. So like we were going for it on 4th down like the whole game. Like if it was within 4th and 5, even when we were up big, like we were still going for it.
Is that bad? Is that fucking bad?
I don't know if it's that bad. Like I haven't really seen the man kick that much, but like he would just miss like some gimmies. I don't know if like maybe they weren't really trusting him or if we was really trying to go with maybe some 4th down plays against an inferior opponent, like seeing kind of how we're gonna do in a situation where we're in the next 3 games we might have to be doing that. Because I mean we got Wake Forest next week. We could easily start going down big, and we might just come out of a hole. So we'd be going for a 4th down almost every drive if need be. So I kind of get it. And I also felt bad. Like it was from the beginning of the game. Like Boston College is like they came in right and high, that kickoff, bottom. I kind of felt bad, man. Their players were sitting on the sideline, just nobody was just smiling. It was just fucking sad. And we was getting after their quarterback. We was showing some hustle. We played really well. And unfortunately, we did give up some points. We had a shutout going, I think, up until the 3rd quarter. I think it was 37-0 or 31-0 before we gave up points. And then I think we gave up like a late garbage points touchdown or garbage time touchdown. So
that's what I was going to ask you about was the defense. So this is probably like the best game the defense has had. Yeah. Do you think they're improving, or do you think it's just they were playing a weaker opponent?
I think we're improving. And they are a weaker opponent. Their quarterback wasn't that good, and that man's been sacked. And their offensive line was completely decimated. So I completely understand why they didn't have a good game offensively. They had nobody. They have more injuries than we do, and in the grand scheme, like we don't have a lot, but like we have like a lot of big injuries. So that I think that had something to do with it, and. I don't know. I think the team's also still just really buying into what Norvell's, selling. He's getting them bought in. He's a really good speaker. He's a good motivator, and I think they're just on board. At the beginning of the season, or maybe before the season, probably not so much. I mean, we didn't have a good year last year. We went 0-4 to start the season. We lost some close games in that. Like we lost Notre Dame when we might have should have been able to beat them. We got beat by an FCS team. Like that's a lot to buy into with a coach. And you're like, man, fuck this shit. Like this dude sucks. Like I'm probably gonna transfer. You know what I mean? And then this year, like we're a completely different team. I'm loving it. Our running backs are on fire, like absolutely on fire. Let me pull up the stats for our running backs. It's sick. So We got Trayshawn Wardson at 350, 3 touchdowns. Trey Benson, 268, 3 touchdowns. Toafili, 142, 3 touchdowns. Like, I'll take it. That's,
Three-headed monster right there.
yeah. And then Travis is looking pretty good. I mean, I know we was talking about him in the Heisman like conversation earlier in the year, but he's almost got 1,000 yards passing. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of touchdown passes, which is kind of the unfortunate thing. I don't know, like we have such good receivers, but he's like not finding them. It's weird. Like Johnny Wilson is an absolute freak, and it's just like Travis barely throws it to him. And if he does, it's on like a little screen or something. I'm like,
Yeah.
just throw it up to the dude. He's gonna catch it. Like it's like what Aaron Rodgers would do with Devontae Adams. Like that's what we need to be doing. Like feed that man. To be fair, that whole fucking game he was double covered. Like the safety was always slid over to his side.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I get it, but they need to find more ways to get him involved. So I mean, that's what I'll say about that. Looking at the schedule, it's tough. You know, we got Wake Forest at home. I don't know how I feel about it. Sam Hartman is I feel like he's gonna just gouge us a lot. I think it's gonna be that like type of Louisville game. I'm hoping we just go in and dust them. I don't think it's gonna happen. It's gonna be a close game, I'm sure, and we're probably gonna need some sort of play to happen, an interception to get us the ball back to go score, or to end the game, or maybe a big sack. Luckily, we have Jordan Travis still. That way, we don't have to put Rodemaker in there in that environment against a better team than Louisville, in my opinion. So I'm really optimistic. At NC State, I think I'm more worried about NC State than Clemson or Wake Forest. I don't know why. I think everybody might just be looking ahead to Clemson. And, we might beat Wake Forest and then be overlooking NC State to Clemson.
Yeah.
I think that, like, they're not a trap team. They're a top 10 team. Like, they're sitting at 10 right now, but, like, it might, and it's on the road, so it might delve into that trap team type game.
They're not in the spotlight in the same way Clemson or Wake Forest are, so you might not think much of them. I would assume Florida State would hopefully be a little bit more focused on that game, just knowing where they've came from the last few years.
Yeah.
Not playing well. They should probably be taking every opponent seriously. And with the Wake Forest game, I don't know. It's a toss-up to me because on one hand, Sam Hartman and all them, they could be deflated after that Clemson loss to where you guys could really take advantage of that. Or they could just be fired up and ready to bounce back, and they could blow you guys out. It could really go either way, in my opinion.
I think so. I don't think Mike Norvell is going to let the players do that. Like, he don't really give a shit about what's ahead. Like, every time I see that man talking after a game, he's like, all right, forget that fucking game. Like, we're looking to this next one. We're not looking ahead type thing. Whether or not the players are actually listening to it is a different story. I think they should be.
Seems like they are at this point in the season, at least.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm like more nervous about. I think I was more nervous for the Louisville game than I am for this one. Like I'm confident in this game. Like we should beat this team. Like we are. I feel like we're firing on all cylinders for the most part. Special teams has played fucking phenomenal. That blocked PAT against LSU. We got a kickoff return. Like our punting's doing pretty well. Other than our kicking, special teams is solid. Defense is improving every week. Offense is like we look really good on offense. This is the best our offense have looked in a long fucking time.
Oh yeah, and then we were talking about Jordan Travis. Like previously, we kind of had him in that Heisman conversation. He's kind of fallen out of it, but you win these next 3 games, he could have his Heisman moment.
I mean,
right now.
If you beat ranked 22 Wake Forest, ranked 10 NC State, ranked 5 Clemson, and then we might drop a game at Syracuse or something like that. I don't see us losing to Miami or fucking Florida unless Anthony Richardson just shits on our chest.
Well, Florida is one of those games where like those rivalry games, like the big rivalries, and like one team could be 0-12 and one could be undefeated, but that rivalry will like fuel the shittier team to somehow beat them. It happens every year. to
Luckily, we got
somebody.
him at home. And I am glad we had Boston College before this slate. After that close Louisville win, we was able to rest some players in the third, fourth quarter. I mean, we weren't resting as enough as I think we should have. Like we still had our running backs were still out there going for it, which is weird. Like give somebody else a chance. So I don't know. Like I'm a little nervous, but I'm pretty hyped. We have a very, very good chance to win this game as long as I think our defense is gonna have to win this game.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think the way Wake Forest defense looked last week, your offense, especially
Should be able to
with
score
that
at
running
will.
game, they should be able to do well. It's just how is that defense going to show up? Because if it's a shootout,
I don't know.
I don't know. With Sam Hartman, it's hard
Sam
to
Hartman
say.
compared to Jordan Travis, like Sam Hartman's a way better quarterback. Is Jordan Travis gonna make a mistake if it's a shootout and I don't know. It's just it's too hard to say. I think it's a close game. I don't know what the spread's looking like. Let me see if it'll say. Or for or if we're favored in the game. I fucking hate ESPN. Why is this not?
Wake has the 26.6% shot to take down the Seminoles on the road. Florida State comes into the game as 6.5 point favorites. So you guys are favored to win the game.
I'll take it. And I don't know. I kind of wish they were ranked a little higher than they were. That would just benefit us in a little bit. They're one spot higher than us. So on the resume, it's not going to look that great. But they did almost take down Clemson. So hopefully if we do make it to a playoff situation, then the committee would be like, well, I mean, Wake Forest almost beat Clemson. So, because I mean, with the way we're playing, the schedule is easily winnable. Like Georgia Tech, trash. Miami, absolute fucking trash this year. Syracuse looks pretty good. Louisiana, they've been decent the last few years. And then Florida. I'm so scared.
I mean, like every week going forward, you're gonna be nervous going in. I mean, like at least the next 3 weeks, every game you're gonna be going in there like I don't fucking know what's gonna happen.
Until we start just looking dominant.
I mean, if you dominate Wake Forest, you might be like, all right, bring it on.
A little more comfortable for NC State. Yeah, I think so. If we go in there and if we can stop Sam Hartman, I know we can stop Devin Leary. I know it. And then DJ he's a little different. He's a little different. But then Syracuse would be the next thing on my schedule. And if we can take them down, then Anthony Richardson, I feel like he's just gonna break our heart. I hope not, but I feel like he could just break our heart.
I could see you guys being like undefeated going into that Florida game. Florida just pulls it. I mean, you never know. I
can see it.
Yeah, I mean that's how I could see it going down, or even just being like one loss or something. Maybe like with like 2 ranked wins, you're pretty high up there. Like if somebody else loses, you guys can maybe get in, and then you got that Florida game sitting there. It's
yeah. That one weighs on me every year.
So we've talked about Wake Forest. I'll transition that into my game of the week, which was Wake Forest versus Clemson.
Same.
Overtime game. So far, to me, that's like the game of the year. I don't think there's been a better game so far. I'm sure there will be. But early in the season, that's a really fucking good game to start. Both offenses look crazy. Defenses
double overtime.
Yeah, double overtime. Came down to the wire, down to the very last play. Wake Forest has never won against Dabo Swinney. They continue to lose against him. It made me really mad at the end. But I texted you, I was like, it's too good to be true that Clemson's gonna lose this game. I just know it. Sometimes you just know it. Like the Alabama Texas game, it's like Alabama's gonna win this. Like even no matter what.
I mean, it started out looking like Clemson might have ran away with it because I remember it was I think 17-7, and we was like, I think we both just switched
Switch to
over
the Kansas
to the
Duke.
Kansas game. And then I think it was like a commercial or some timeout in the Kansas game, and I switched back, and then I think it was when it was 17-14 or 2014 in the second quarter, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I switched back in the third quarter. I was like, this is actually a game.
It was clear. It was crazy. So in the third quarter, Wake takes the lead, 21-20, and they go up 28-20. And then they kind of like had the lead, but getting tied. It was back and forth, all the way up until the fourth quarter when Clemson tied to send it to overtime. And they had it. They had it. But 100%, I think definitely the game of the week. 51-45, double overtime type game, lots of yards. Future NFL players playing and just going out there and putting in work. Man had 6 touchdowns, like missed 9 passes. DJ went 26 for 41. Sam Hartman went 20 for 29. DJ had 5 touchdown passes, like more yards.
Hell of a game. It kind of put ACC on the map a little bit more this year. ACC doesn't all. I mean, like besides Big Ten and SEC, it's kind of hard to find those like big matchups that live up to the hype in those other 3 Power 5 conferences. But when they come up, it's a great thing.
There was another matchup that I was kind of looking at. Where was which one was it? I might just be tripping, but there was another one I wanted to talk about. I think it was the Arkansas A&M game. That one was pretty close. It was 2-point game. Arkansas getting taken out by A&M. And then the Tennessee Florida game. So I think either of those 3 games could have slid into this spot. All 3 games had ranked teams involved on both sides. Almost an upset on Clemson's part. I would say Arkansas getting upset by A&M. A&M has not looked that good. And then Florida almost upsetting Tennessee. So what do you think? The Clemson Wake Forest game is still better. But
yeah, Clemson Wake Forest I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of the games because I was either in transit to Norman or I was actually in Norman. So I didn't really get to experience the full effect of a lot of those games. Wake Forest and Clemson was the only one I really got to watch like pretty much the full game of. Arkansas A&M sounded like it was a really good game. I didn't necessarily like the outcome of it, but
so I watched a little bit of both of those games. Arkansas really wasn't doing shit until like the end of the game. Like the last couple of drives that they needed is when they started, putting it into gear. And I just don't think they wasn't able to kind of recover the momentum and get back to where they wanted to be in front. And that Tennessee Florida game was just back and forth. Like Tennessee looks really good. They look really good. And other mobile QBs that they'd be playing, like Bryce Young's not a super mobile QB. So when they go up against Alabama potentially, and they actually play Alabama in 2 weeks. I was thinking they played Alabama. It would be in the SEC championship, but so Bryce Young's not a super mobile QB. So that's kind of what gouged him was Anthony Richardson, with his feet, and he had a really good passing day. And Bryce Young don't really run a lot. I mean, he does when he needs to. I don't know, Tennessee's schedule is fucking gross. Absolutely gross.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. I was just thinking about like you talking about how Tennessee could maybe beat Bama.
I'm thinking
Tennessee's
they do.
Gonna shoot up to like number 1 probably.
I'm saying it now. I think Tennessee beats Bama.
I could see it, and what sucks is you would think like, oh, Bama's losing, and my team got a shot to move up. Nah, Tennessee is gonna move up, and then when Tennessee loses, that team's gonna move up. That beats them.
The shitty thing is they go on the road at LSU before Bama. So I mean, LSU's a really tough place to play. LSU's not that great this year, but they're not that bad. Like that's a trap game for them for sure.
It's a tough place to play, and you got Brian Kelly, who hasn't looked the best so far, but has
He's
been
not
to
a
multiple championships, playoff appearances.
yeah,
He's not some scrub off the street.
100%. And then yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say on that. Yeah, Tennessee's taking Alabama. Heard it here first.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked a lot about other games before we hopped into our game of the week. We could jump into best performance by a team. I have like a three-way tie between FSU, Bama, and Middle Tennessee State. I would say probably Middle Tennessee State's probably who I'm leaning towards at number one, just because nobody expected them to win that game, and they kind of dominated.
I got K-State.
Oh, motherfuck you.
I'm sorry.
Can't even have your own fucking team in there.
No, I'm not, because we were expected to win that game. We played Boston College. They're not even a good team. Like, yeah, Middle Tennessee is a very good pick there. But I mean, K-State going into Norman and beating the 6th ranked OU team with the Venables defense, like Miami is just ass this year. So I'm not super surprised, but like in the moment, I was like, holy shit, Miami sucks.
Well, it was the confirmation that they sucked.
Yeah.
Like you kind of like before that game, you're kind of like Miami, like you still kind of take them seriously a little bit. After that game, they're like the laughing stock of the ACC right now.
Oh, 100%. Miami is like the laughing stock of like football.
Damn near, yeah.
I think they're down there with like, I don't know, Notre Dame was hovering around down there for a little while.
They even won against North Carolina, though. They're looking better than Miami at this point.
Fucking South Carolina is kind of hovering down there, but I mean, they won this week. Miami just might be holding that shit to themselves. That was a terrible performance. How do you fucking lose to Middle Tennessee with the players that you get at Miami? Like,
well,
it's Miami.
Middle Tennessee won in convincing fashion. That's the worst part about it.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, they beat us on a last second field goal, or we made a big mistake which cost us the game. And they did not look good across the board. I'm pretty sure they had a lot of penalties that game, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull up the game cast so we can narrow this down to how bad they really were. They jumped up to a 24-3 lead actually in the second quarter, like 24-3. Like you're not digging yourself out of the hole. That's just bad. So I mean, 15-yard interception return to put it 10-0. Then they had a 71-yard pass. So you're giving up big plays right there to make it 17-3. Another big 69-yard pass to make it 31-10. A 98-yard pass to make it 38-17. Like, and then right after that, Miami takes a 91-yard kickoff to the house. But like, you're just giving up too many big plays. Like, yeah. I don't know if they were just like selling out to, put pressure on the QB or stop the run. Because I mean, looking at the stats, that Middle Tennessee's running back only had 74 yards on him, so it's not like he was gouging them. I think they was just over expecting like how good their pass rush was going to be, and they were just getting beat one-on-one on the perimeter. And Middle Tennessee's quarterback was making them pay. Man had 408 yards.
It's just the expectations that Miami had going into this season with Mario.
What were they ranked to start the season?
Weren't they like 10 or 11 or some shit? Like, I feel like they're pretty high, or like 14, something. They're like top 15 for sure.
I'm thinking it was 12. Like, how do you go from ranked 12 to now being 2-2, losing to Middle Tennessee?
It's a disaster. Maybe it'll be like a Norvell situation where it starts off very rocky, but it becomes good. You don't know, but yeah, not a good performance by Miami at all. We could jump from there to most disappointing performance by a team, which we might Miami. Not have to talk too long about this. We just kind of discussed it. I did have a three-way tie But
Oh, really?
Miami's pretty much my lead. OU losing to K-State, and then Michigan State lost, which I can't remember who they lost to at the moment. Let's see. I don't think I wrote it down. They lost to somebody they shouldn't have lost to, and they're a team that was like ranked 12 like a week ago. They lose to Washington, and then they got blown out. It was Minnesota. They got blown out like 42-13 by Minnesota. Like, I don't know how you drop that fucking far that quickly.
I don't know. Minnesota was pretty good. I think was it last year? They was like almost like a borderline like playoff team. I think they dropped
now they're
like,
ranked. Yeah, now
they're
ranked.
4-0 right now. So I mean, I don't know. I would say I'm surprised on that, but not particularly.
I thought it'd be closer at least.
And then the OU K-State game, like I don't know. I wouldn't really call it like, yeah, it's disappointing as like a fan of the team, but yeah, it is a disappointing performance, but there is a lot that goes into that game to kind of like swing it out of that a little bit. Like historically bad against K-State. Historically,
with K-State sitting at 25, it's not as bad as Miami by and far has the worst like performance of the week.
And I don't know, going into the season, I was having K-State as like a Big 12 favorite. Like sorry, I almost had a burp there for a second. The soju coming up. Big 12, they have not Big 12, K-State, they have a good defense. They have a good running back. So I was expecting them to be good this year. I wasn't really expecting them to like beat OU and Norman good, but maybe a 2-loss, maybe 3-loss team, but that Tulane loss and then coming into OU and beating them, which is really weird. So I don't know.
Had they not lost to Tulane, I don't think it would be as bad of a look for OU.
No.
But maybe the Tulane was a fluke. My hope is K-State wins every fucking game going on from here, and we just meet them in the Big 12 championship. It's not going to happen, but that'd be my pipe dream of the season.
What do you think? K-State not losing to Tulane last week, beating you guys. Where do you think they'd be sitting at 4-0?
Probably like 16, 15, somewhere around that.
No way.
Think it'd be higher?
Yeah, I think so. I think they'd be sitting. I think they'd bump probably OSU for that 9 spot.
I don't think they'd be that high. I think they.
What do you mean?
I think it'd be
look at a lot of these teams like right there in that area that just haven't fucking played anybody. Like OSU's not played a ranked team yet. NC State hasn't played a ranked team yet. Penn State, I don't think they've played anybody yet. Utah sitting there with a loss to Florida, and Tennessee just beat Florida. So I think they could just slide right there in that 9-11 range, beating the 6th ranked team. Like, what do you mean?
I mean, I think they'd definitely be probably pushing like the 15 range. I don't know if like the voters would give them that.
I 100% would, especially on the road. I think that plays a lot into like matchups. Like you went into a team's home, a pretty you don't lose much at home, like hardly ever.
It's usually only the K-State. Like the past few years, honestly, it's the K-State or Oklahoma State.
God, that shit would piss me off. I'm like, the more we talk about it, the more I'm getting mad about it, and I'm not even an OU fan. Oh God!
Just putting yourself in those shoes,
I'm like hot right now. How the fuck do you lose to K-State at home?
That's what I'm
with
saying.
The crowd that you guys had, like that crowd was fucking booming for a minute.
I wish I went to a different game, but it is what it is. I'm considering going to the Kansas game because the tickets are actually surprisingly cheap, like $50 a seat.
Really? I would, man. I don't know. I probably wouldn't go to that one. Kansas might go in there and whoop y'all.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, I don't know if I want to go to another Kansas team.
Kansas QB looks fucking legit. That man was money last week.
But yeah, I mean, that was the game I was considering. Coaches on the hot seat. I
got a couple actually.
Ooh, who do you got?
I mean, you go first if you want.
I got one. Steve Sarkisian at Texas. He did terrible last year, and he's not looking like he's off to a good start this year.
I mean, to be fair, his Quinn Ewers is hurt.
Yeah, that is true.
You can't fault the coach for your arguably one of the best high school prospects since I think we talked about this. He had the best rating coming out of high school since like Vince Young, like a perfect 1,000.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's had a perfect like 1 or 1,000 or whatever the fuck it is since Vince Young. So You can't really fault the coach for that. And if he wouldn't have got hurt, they would be a top 4 team right now because they would have beat Bama. So
Yeah.
that, I mean, yeah, they did do really bad last year, but Quinn
That's
Ewers
kind of what I'm basing it off of. Is last year, and you're not off to a great start this year.
I think it's one more year because Quinn Ewers will be full strength next year, and then they'll have Arch Manning
Yeah.
sitting there right behind him. So I mean, there's no excuse. Quinn Ewers
Texas has a bright future either fucking way.
Yeah,
regardless of who their coach is.
Unless somebody transfers, but that's my only caveat. Yeah, I could see it if maybe the boosters are like, all right, fuck it. Maybe they don't really like Steve Sarkisian. Maybe he's in there just swinging his dick around, and they don't even want to buy the excuse that the QB one's hurt. But I'd at least give him one more year. Coach in the hot seat. I got fucking Mario Cristobal, Miami. You can't fucking lose to Middle Tennessee. Like, you cannot lose to Middle Tennessee. You're Miami. Like, the recruiting, the players you guys get. Like, come on, it shouldn't happen.
The only reason I didn't have him on my list was kind of like the first year thing we're talking about. This was his second or third year. He'd be fired already, probably.
I agree, but I mean, they're sitting at 2-2 now. They were ranked pretty high favorites, I think, against Texas A&M. I think they lost a close game there. I think it was a close game against A&M, if I remember correctly. Also got Shane Beamer still from South Carolina. I don't think he might make it to the season.
You brought him up last week, and I forgot again. But yeah, no, actually, I'm putting him on my list too.
They won this week, but they didn't really play anybody.
They still kind of struggled a little bit, I think, early on.
Oh, who did they play?
Was it like Georgia? It wasn't Georgia Southern. It was like some team like that, though.
They played Charlotte.
What was the final score?
56-20, but
okay, it's not.
That's one of their cupcake games. Like they need to win a game against an SEC team. Like
I don't think they're going to win a game against the SEC. Like I heard, like it's very possible that they do not win a game.
I agree. They're 0-2 in the SEC. They beat Georgia State and Charlotte. Next week they got South Carolina State. They'll probably blow them out, just like Charlotte. And then they're at Kentucky, A&M.
Loss.
They got Missouri.
Maybe
I doubt it. And then at Vanderbilt, if Vanderbilt plays the way they did against Penn State, they're probably not. Florida, Tennessee, Clemson.
Loss.
Yeah. 100%. That man's fucking gone. If they go winless in the SEC
with Spencer Rattler, I feel bad for Spencer Rattler. A year ago, they were talking about him being the number 1 overall pick. He is probably not even going to get drafted at this point.
He's not a senior this year, is he?
He's a redshirt junior, I believe. So he probably will come back another year.
I would transfer. I don't know why the fuck he went to the SEC, especially a non-productive SEC team. He should have went to like another Big 12 school or maybe the Pac-12. Somewhere where he can.
I think he should have went to Arizona State. That's what the other 2 teams he was considering.
Somewhere he could have got comfortable. He's not going to be getting harassed a lot by opposing defenses. He's going to get in his rhythm. He's going to throw a lot of yards, throw a lot of touchdowns, get his confidence back, and just dominate. That's what he should have done. I think he probably thought he was better than he was, and was like, "I'm going to South Carolina. I'm going to bring him to the fucking
SEC. I'm going
to take him to the championship." Like, fuck no, bro.
I'll be the number 1 overall pick after that, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, he's either really bad or his confidence is just destroyed. And then I got Brian Harsin from Auburn. They was talking about firing that man before the Missouri game. And I was watching that game. They should have lost. So
he saved himself a little bit.
No, so like they should have lost. Fucking Missouri fumbled it on like the 1 yard line.
Like, like for like touchback or whatever.
You watched that play?
I saw that play, yeah.
Yeah, that man was almost in the fucking end zone and they would have lost. How do you like? God. I was like, are you fucking joking? I would be hot. So in my opinion, Auburn should have lost that game. It was almost like kind of one of those weird little fluke plays. It was luck on their part.
Save that man a job.
He would have been out. That's the only thing that saved him from getting fired this week. I mean, they could still fire him. So the Auburn job's opening up, I believe, because they're not going to win very, very many games, I think, as well. Let me pull up their schedule. I bet it's fucking ass as well. Auburn has like a notoriously tough schedule all the time. They got LSU, at Georgia, at Ole Miss, Arkansas, at Mississippi State, A&M, Western Kentucky, and then at Alabama. They might win one of those next games.
They seem there's very few games they can win.
They might beat Western Kentucky. Might. I don't think they'll beat LSU.
The only honestly, like this sounds crazy. Like I see them losing almost all those games. The Bama game, it's like one of those Florida State type deals where you never fucking know. They could win that game. Doubt it though. I fucking doubt it. I feel like they maybe win 2 to 3 more games this year.
I think if they were at home, they would maybe give Alabama a little challenge just because of that rivalry, but they're at Alabama. So I don't really do them any favors. I mean, somehow they're fucking 3-1, but the teams that they beat were Mercer, San Jose State, lost to Penn State pretty handily, and then Missouri, which they should have lost. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, Auburn's not looking good. I haven't really thought too much about that. I'm gonna keep track of them because I could definitely see him being fired. Beamer, I completely forgot about too. Sarkisian, I think he won't get fired during the season, but if they're like a 5-win team by the end of the year, he's gone. I don't see how they would keep him. 4 or 5 wins, like nah. Texas is Texas, man. Like
yeah, but I mean it's hard. I mean they have no fucking quarterback. Like their backup's not that good.
Yeah,
like, he's not bad. Like he kept them in that Texas Tech game. Like they almost won. So like I don't know. I wouldn't fire him, man. I would not this year. I'd give him next year.
I mean, like if I would probably give him another year. I don't think Texas will. Just Texas being like that big of a school, they have all these expectations. Plus, Sarkisian, he's already had the keys to another top program of all time in USC, and he had a drinking problem and got fired from that. He's kind of. I feel like this is his last chance to redeem himself.
Yeah, and ideally they would want to be set up going into the SEC with an established team, coach, QB. They don't want to be bringing in a brand new coach transitioning into the SEC just to get fucking beat around for another year or two before they get on their feet. Because I mean, OU's they made the right move bringing in a good coach who they're probably not going to fire no matter if they drop another game or not. They're not firing Venables.
Yeah.
Not until they move into the SEC, I bet, because he's got experience playing these top teams in the SEC. He's played Georgia and Alabama. He knows how the offenses to work, so he's already got an advantage going into the SEC compared to Texas if they go in there with fucking nobody.
Yeah, I mean, I think Venables is kind of on like a Stoops trajectory where he'll be there for some time to come. We could jump into like our last topic for this episode. Bounce back performance. I'll just jump into mine because I actually don't even want to talk about it because we've talked about it so much. K-State beat Tulane, beat OU, bounce back performance of the week for me.
That's my same one. We was on a lot of similar wavelengths this week.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those weeks where like I feel like all of our topics we were covering were glaringly obvious.
Yeah.
On who were the better teams of the week and who were the most disappointing teams of the week. Anything you want to say in conclusion to this before we end this recording and start like our NFL?
Giants are only down by 3, baby.
See, I haven't even checked the score on that.
It's 6-3 with 2 minutes left in the half. It's but terrible game.
To end this episode, one of our episodes just went live tonight. We did a non-football episode, conspiracy theories. We had a guest on there. We had a lot of different topics. We're gonna be we recorded a long ass like 2-hour video, broke it down into 3 episodes. So you'll be seeing those on Wednesday and Friday, as well as the one that dropped tonight. Tomorrow, I guess Tuesday, you'll be seeing this episode. Thursday, you'll probably be seeing our NFL episodes. So we should have stuff pretty much every day going forward. Hopefully we'll have content for you guys, but we'll go ahead and end this episode and we'll see you guys next week for the college football stuff.
Peace.